Thanks very much, Ben Thompson, there with all the latest on RBS Now West. Now, after almost a year of unprecedented restrictions on family life, a new investigation by a leading children's charity has found that the UK's most vulnerable children and parents are at rock bottom, with huge concern about the mental health, the finances and safeguarding of families they support, as well as fears for their future. Action for Children carried out interviews with key workers representing frontline services across the UK, including children's services, services for disabled children and young carers. Let's get more on this and speak to Imran Hussain, Director of Policy and Campaigns at the charity Action for Children. Thanks very much for joining us. Who are you most concerned about at this particular moment? We're coming up to the budget, of course, where there's been talk about changes to the extension in universal credit.
So we're concerned about children's life chances, we're concerned about their childhoods, but we're also concerned about parents who feel isolated or who are at the wit's end. So, what we're asking the government to do is look at the evidence that we've provided and recognise that we need to put children at the heart of the debate. That isn't happening at the moment. So, our investigation, what we found was that families, children are at breaking point. Our frontline workers are warning us that families are at breaking point. They're also saying that they fear that things will get worse in the next few months. So the worries are about childhoods, they're about life chances, but they're also about parents and the support they need.
And in terms of the budget and universal credit, there's been talk of, for example, changing the weekly top-up to a one-off payment. Would that be difficult for some families? Would that not be helpful in a way to give them a bigger boost in one go?
Look, the first thing to say is when the government increased universal credit last year by £20 a week, that made a huge difference to families. It's a real lifeline. But it's also worth recognising that wasn't enough for many families. For many families, the hardship is still there. And we had to set up an emergency fund last year, which has given out about £1 million to families for the basics, food, utility bills, learning equipment so that kids can learn at home. So we've had to do that with the £20 top up. So taking it away from families right now, just as unemployment is about to peak, will be a real body blow for families. I mean, one of the families that we work with, so one of our care workers said to us that one of the families that they see used to be a family who used to buy food in a weekly shop to give to the food bank, and now that same family are relying on the food bank. So we've seen in the past year, we've seen a huge increase in the numbers of people going on to universal credit. People who maybe a year ago thought that they were, maybe not rich, but were comfortable, and their lives have been uprooted, and they're relying on universal credit. So taking it away now, or replacing it with a one-off payment for 6 months, isn't enough. If it's 6 months extension, then that family will lose over £500 a year. Huge amount for a family relying on universal credit. And then, of course, it won't have that in future years. So it will lose out on over £1,000 a year in the future.
Can you give me any examples of children, of families that you've heard about who are most vulnerable? For example, we know that those children who need to go to school have been able to go to school if they want to, but that still leaves people in vulnerable positions, doesn't it, at home, not being able to perhaps escape, abusive situations, and all that has been extremely toxic and difficult in the last 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, often, we spot problems around abuse or neglect through teachers or through children's centre workers. So not having those open, or then having fewer pupils at them, means that we're missing out. There are fewer referrals. So that's a major worry around safeguarding, and that's something that our staff, frontline workers, have highlighted. But we're also seeing problems right at the beginning. We want to give all our children the best start in life, but there are parents who have had kids in the last year, and it's just really tough for them, feeling really isolated. I spoke to a mum who had a child, said it wasn't her first child, and that she always kind of felt a confident individual, but having a child and being away from everyone just really highlighted her the need for support. So we're seeing that, and those children, it's just much harder. As they grow and develop and learn their communication skills, just being isolated away from other children, away from family and friends, just makes it tougher to give those children the best start in life. So the big worry we've got is that in the next, even once the health crisis dissipates, we are still going to have a poverty crisis and a mental health crisis. We know that in the last 2 or 3 years, the number of children estimated to have a mental health disorder has shot up from 1 in 9 to 1 in 6 last year. And that 1 in 6 figure is before the second and third lockdowns. So we anticipate it will be even worse. So none of this should be a counsel of despair. I mean, the warning we're giving, the warning others are giving, have got to be acted on. We've got to invest in children. If we get that right, then we've got a chance to repair some of the damage that's been done to life chances and to childhoods.
Imran Hussain from the charity Action for Children, thank you very much indeed.